to a certain extent, lighthearted to a certain extent, but that's only because of my sense of humor. At any rate, let's have a word of prayer to begin the class. Actually, Tom, would you lead us in prayer, please?
Our Heavenly Father, we're very thankful for all your many wonderful blessings, for the prosperity we enjoy in this land of freedom, and for the spiritual blessings in Christ, the salvation of our souls, and for the blessings we enjoy as children of God. Thank you, God, for all these things, for this time that we're here, that we can have this class, and we can look into your word, and that we can look into all the wisdom that's there, that's for us to gain, and that we can study your word, and that we can take this and may it enrich our lives, may it enrich us spiritually, and that we can take this and we can admonish and help each other as we have this class together. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. I've got to say that I believe that I am benefiting from this class as much as I've ever benefited from a Bible class. I'm learning so much, remembering some things and noticing some things that perhaps I had not noticed before, and I hope that y'all are too. Tim, of course, is doing just an outstanding job on Sundays, and I appreciate it. I'm learning so much from Tim, and I appreciate the hard work that he does. I'd like to start the class this way, looking at Abraham and Sarah, and looking at the problems. Of course, he lied about Sarah as far as she being his wife a couple of times. Had that problem with Sarah and Hagar and Ishmael, and all of those kinds of problems that I have up there. And I apologize for the small print, but that was so I could get everything on one slide that I wanted to. And you'll see why in just a moment. And then there is a matter of Isaac and Rebekah, and wouldn't you know it, come right along and followed in the footsteps of his daddy, lied about Rebekah as far as his wife. Isaac preferred Esau. Rebekah preferred Jacob. That caused problems. That never works. That just never works as far as when one parent prefers one child over another. And then we get over to Jacob. Can't see that back there because it's too small. Yeah, Esau. And really a lot of problems with brothers. Jacob took advantage of Esau. He came in from the field. He was hungry. Jacob was preparing some stew, and he asked him for a bowl of that. And Jacob said, "Sure, if you give me your birthright." And Jacob said, "Well, what's that going to do if I die? You know, that's not going to help me any." And then the next thing you know, Jacob goes ahead and with the help of his mother deceives Isaac and takes Esau's birthright blessing. And then Esau is so angry with Jacob that he wants to kill him. And so Mama Rebekah tells Jacob, "You got to get out of here. I want you to go over to my kindred." So we get Jacob over there with Laban, and that's no picnic. That didn't work out too good. The first agreement was that Jacob would work for Laban for 7 years for the right to marry his daughter Rachel. Well, when it was time for the wedding to take place, and the next thing you know, Jacob wakes up next to Leah, and then Laban takes advantage of his love for Rachel and tells him, "If you'll work 7 more years for me, you can have Rachel right now as a wife, and that sort of thing. That didn't help matters at all. And then there was all of those problems between Leah and Rachel. And there's just, I mean, so far what we have seen to a large extent is families that are very dysfunctional to a certain extent, to one degree or another. And then we've got Jacob and Shechem. We studied about that this last week. This man Shechem literally raped the woman that he loved, and they decided that wasn't good. And so Simeon and Levi tricked the people there and said, well, I tell you what, you can have her for a wife, but you and everybody in the whole town, as far as the men is concerned, are going to have to be circumcised. And they said, well, okay. Of course, Shechem was the prince, and his daddy was the king of that city, so everybody listened to him. And while they were recovering from being circumcised, Levi and Simeon comes in there and kills every one of them. So we can see this deception, just a kind of a common thread throughout here. And then we got Jacob and Joseph, and we're right in the middle of that. But Jacob makes the same mistake that his daddy did, as far as showing preference to one child over the other. That caused them to hate him. We're going to talk about that tonight. And just all of those things that we see listed there, and there could be much more, just didn't have room on the slide to, other than that. But what we see here is this whole scenario here is caused by lies and deception. Everything that has taken place. And I've never really noticed that before. Has somebody else noticed that beginning with Abraham all the way before we had this class? Has anybody noticed that there you got 6 generations or so, and the problems lay in the lies and deception? Did you notice that?
Well, I didn't notice that, but you saying this, I did notice
All
that.
this is by preference over another individual.
Yeah.
This is favoritism,
Yes, it
which
is.
created all the lies and deception.
Yeah, and that never works out. The thing about it is, all of this started in the Garden of Eden, when Satan lied to Eve, and in the New Testament, we're told that Eve was deceived by Satan. Lies and deception. And it's interesting how that we've got the power of Satan at work here. I mean, all these problems is really the work of Satan. And we think, wow, how in the world is God going to take care of all that? But as Tom reminds us from time to time, God is working out His eternal plan for man's salvation. So I think that one of the things that is so fascinating about all of this is the fact that God is being able to work out His eternal plan despite the fact He's having to work with men who have free will. And that's really the thing about the whole deal, is because we have been created with free will, we have the right, not just the ability, we have the right to make our own decisions. God even gives us the right to make bad decisions, wrong decisions, sinful decisions. But despite all of that, God's purposes for the salvation of mankind is being worked up, has been worked out, and that's the reason why we have the ability to live in a living hope of a heavenly home, because despite our fallacies, despite our shortcomings, God is able to use us even today. He can use us in our evangelistic efforts, and as Tom prayed just a moment ago, in our ability to encourage one another in the assembly, to help us to be better able to withstand the temptation of the evil one, to be encouraged, to help us get up when we have fallen. And it's, to me, so far, it's just such a beautiful story that I've never really put all the pieces together up to this point. And I think that it's absolutely amazing what God has been doing all of this time, despite the fact that He is using fallible man to accomplish this. Okay, little review time. Please raise your hand so I can call on you. But what's the first one of the Bible history periods, according to what we're looking at? What's the very first one? No hands? Nick? Yeah, before the flood. Okay. And the second one ought to be pretty easy. Cindy? Okay. And the third one? This is the one that always trips up everybody, it seems like. Brenda? Scattering of the people. And then the fourth one that we're in right now, Danielle? I'm sorry? The patriarchs. Right. Okay. Now let's talk about the wives, plural, and sons of Jacob. Okay, who started, which one of the wives started bearing children first, Jean? That would be Leah. And her first child, Pam? That was child, Karen? I'm sorry? Yes, Simeon, third child. Somebody, who's that in the back there? Somebody? No? Over here? Denise?
No.
Levi, priestly tribe. And then Judah. Okay? Now, which one of the concubines started having children first? Tanner?
Bilhah.
Oh, yes, Bilhah. And who's her first child? Tawana? No. Jean? That would be Dan. And the second child, Karen? I'm sorry? Zebulun. And who's the other concubine? Is that you, Cindy? Okay, Zilpah. Yeah, and her first child? Gad. And the second child? Colleen? Asher. And then who comes next? Tawana? Yeah, Leah starts having children again. And her first child?
Zebulun.
Okay, Issachar. And then Zebulun. And then the last one to bear is who, Cindy?
Rachel.
Rachel and her son?
Joseph. Sorry.
Pam?
Joseph.
Yeah. Okay, very good. I appreciate the fact that y'all did so well on that. One of the things about this material is that they want us to try and remember these wives and children of Jacob, because they're going to play a significant role in future things that we will be talking about. Okay, so let's get to tonight's. By the way, this is also the people that they want us to try and remember in order of their appearance in the story. These are the major ones, of course, that we will have already talked about, pretty much all of them. We're in the process of discussing Joseph's life. So just one of the things that the Waldron people in developing this material really wanted is for us to try to memorize some very, very important things that will help us to have a better understanding and recall in regard to Bible history and that sort of thing. Okay, so tonight we're going to talk about Joseph serving in Potiphar's household. And the first thing we want to talk about is that Joseph, he was sold by his brothers. Well, this is going back to Sunday. He was sold by his brothers to the Ishmaelites / Midianites. What's so important about who he is sold to in regard to the Ishmaelites and Midianites? Karen? Uh-huh. Okay. Who can help her out? Oh, Ham?
Midian's also a son of Abraham too.
Yeah. Well, yes. And the Ishmaelite and Midianites are used interchangeably. So that's one of the reasons why you can get confused about that. Just jumping fairly well into the future here, those Midianites, when do we see them again? In a very, very prominent role there, Karen.
When Moses leaves Egypt and he goes into the land of the Midianites and he marries Sarah.
Okay. Yeah. Even further into the future. Pam?
I think they fight Hammond, the king.
And come on, the Babylon king, that was, I'm not saying the name right.
Okay,
Yeah, but it was a king that I know, but I can't say his name right.
well, okay, that's fine. We go even further into the future. That's the reason why we need to remember these people, because we see them a lot through the history in the Old Testament. The Midianites were the ones who would raid the people of Israel in the days of the judges. And which judge did God send out against them? Cindy?
I want to say Gideon.
That's right, Gideon. So when we get into the days of the judges, a long time, fairly good while, we're going to see these Midianites again in a very prominent role. Okay, so Jacob shows
Joseph a lot of favor. He gave him this coat of many colors, or a tunic that represented favor in the first place, that made his brothers hate him. Actually, he had 4 of the brothers. The 4 brothers that were born to the concubines, he made them mad. How did he make them mad? I mean, they hated him from a long time ago. Yeah, he was out there working with them, and tattletale, kind of thing. But he gave a bad report to his daddy concerning those 4 men, so they didn't have any use for him at all. When Jacob gave him the coat of many colors, then that made him hate him even more than that. And then it's kind of difficult to make sure that we understand whether or not Joseph's attitude concerning the dreams that he had, where his brothers were bowing down to him. But I want to tell you, that just about put the icing on the cake, because when they see him coming, you remember they're up in Dothan. And by the way, where did the Midianites settle? Anybody know your geography as far as where the Midianites settled? I mean, way down there, close to the Red Sea. And yet they came up, way up here to Dothan, which is up above the city of Dan even. It's way up there. No, I'm sorry, not Dan, Shechem. It's way, way, way up there. And here they come, and Joseph's brother says, oh, wow, here's a chance to really get even with this dude. Let's sell him. Let's just sell him to these guys. At first, they wanted to kill him, didn't they? They wanted to throw him in a pit and kill him. Which one of the brothers said, no, that's not a good idea? The niece? Yeah, Reuben. Have you ever thought about why Reuben would be the one, most likely, that would suggest that let's not kill him? Tawana? Yeah, he's the oldest, and he would be the one that Jacob would probably look to take care of his favorite son. So, at any rate, Jacob is the one that wanted to kill him. Judah does what? Pam? I'm sorry?
Sell
Yeah, let's make some money off the dude. Never mind, just killing him is one thing. But then we're going to have to explain that to Daddy, what happened to him. But we might as well make a profit off of him. Let's sell him. Now, there's one other thing that I think is at least a possibility why they might have hated Joseph so much. And I don't know if I've ever even heard somebody suggest this, and this is just my way of thinking. It might be right, it might not be right. I'll leave that up to you to decide for yourself. But you remember when Jacob was coming back to go home, and he heard that Esau was coming with 400 men, and he put the two concubines and their four sons out front with some animals. And then they put Leah and all of her brood, 6 sons, after that. I think with the idea that, well, here comes Esau, he's going to have to deal with those first ones, and by the time they get killed off, maybe the other ones can escape. But even if not, then he's got Leah and her 6 sons. And by the time they kill them off, maybe my precious Rachel and son Joseph is going to be in some good situation. That might not be, but it just seems plausible to me. And that seems to me like that would be a good reason for them to hate him even more. Oh, we don't mean anything to Dad. He just stuck us out there to get killed, while precious Joseph got to run away, kind of thing. At any rate, he was sold by his brothers to the Midianites for 20 shekels of silver. And the other brothers, they've got to figure out how in the world they're going to explain all of this to Daddy. So what kind of an idea did they come up with? Tawana? Yeah, they took a goat, they killed it, they took the blood from the goat and smeared it all over Joseph's coat of many colors or whatever, took it, and they didn't even tell Daddy, hey, we found Joseph's coat and he, without question, was killed by some wild animal. They just presented the coat to him and let Jacob draw his own conclusion as far as what had happened to him. Now, based upon what we have studied in Tim's class particularly, were they lying to their daddy? Absolutely, because one of the definitions of lying is deception, doing something for the specific purpose of deceiving another person. So, they deceived Jacob, and he says, my son has surely been just torn up by some wild beast. And he said, I'll go to my grave. I'll go to Sheol, mourning my son. And it says that the brothers tried to comfort him. No deal. They couldn't comfort him. What do you think that says about Joseph's brothers, that they were willing for their dad to be in such anguish as far as, regardless of the circumstances? What do you think that says about what's going on in their hearts and minds, Denise?
There wasn't a close relationship with their father.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like there was a close relationship. It seems to me like that once again we've got deception really playing a major role in regard to how things are done. Okay, so they sell him down in Egypt And they sell him to a man by the name of Potiphar. He was an Egyptian officer of Pharaoh, captain of the bodyguard. In other words, Joseph was bought by a very significant person down in Egypt. He wasn't just a run-of-the-mill soldier or something like that. He is the officer of Pharaoh and captain of Pharaoh's bodyguard. So he's a very important man. He's a guy that Pharaoh has got on his payroll, so to speak, to protect him, to keep him alive. One of the things that we're going to see throughout the story of Joseph, and what I would like everybody to do as we go forward in our studying about Joseph, is to pay attention, either highlight it or make a check mark or whatever you want to do. Make a list on a piece of paper, but see how many times we're in the 39th chapter of Genesis. Joseph dies in chapter 50, okay, and then we get into the book of Exodus. I'd like for you to figure out, to pay attention to how many times in the history of Joseph we read the words that the Lord was with Joseph, okay? Because I think that that's very, very important. That the Lord, well, let me go back. But at least right now, in chapter 39, there's 3 times. 3 times already in just one chapter, we're told that the Lord was with Joseph, okay? So God blessed Joseph with great success, and we're told that Potiphar saw that the Lord was blessing Joseph. And everything that Joseph did was successful. He found favor in Potiphar's sight. Potiphar made Joseph a personal servant. You know, he's coming up in the world. And he is being put into some positions of really authority, and certainly positions that carry a great deal of value as far as his worth to his master. Okay? He made him overseer of his house, Potiphar did, and the scriptures say that everything that he owned, he put into Joseph's charge. That's an amazing thing, because he surely is a well-to-do guy in the position that he holds. And so the Lord blessed the Egyptian's house on account of Joseph, and Potiphar left everything he owned in Joseph's charge, except for one thing. What was that? I'm sorry? Well, before that, Brenda? Yeah. He was in charge of everything except what he ate. He had special people to watch out for him in regard to his diet and whether or not the food was not poisoned and all that sort of thing. Why do you think he would not want Joseph testing his food to see if there was poison in it? Because, you know, people that are in high places a lot of times back in that time had to worry about that, Tom.
He didn't want Joseph to die either.
Yeah, yeah. He didn't want his favorite guy to die because he tested his food and it was poisonous. So the next thing you know, we've got a problem. And that is that we see, wait a minute, I got to go further even. Joseph's faith is going to be tested severely. We're told that he was handsome in form and appearance. Now, what does that mean? He was good looking, and he was what they call it, buff or something like that, you know, muscular.
Interesting, only 2 other people in the Bible that said about him. That's David and his son Absalom.
Really? Excellent. Thank you for bringing that to our attention. Now, just see, that's the reason why Bible classes are so good, is because somebody has done a different investigation from others, and they offer that information, and now everybody in here knows that Joseph, David, and Absalom are the only ones in the Old Testament that are described as being handsome or in form and appearance.
That's subjective.
Yeah, that depends on who you're asking, Joe. Okay. All right, so what does Potiphar do? Potiphar's wife do? What is the test that begins? Cindy?
Well, she was attracted to him.
Yeah.
She wanted him.
Yeah. She was very much physically attracted to him, and she kept telling him just 3 words. What were those 3 words, Pam? Lie with me. Testing, and by this time, Joseph is not really old. He is probably in that age to where hormones are really raging pretty good, and so this would be a real test for someone his age. He's a good-looking guy. He's got a woman that probably is very good-looking, and she is saying, lie with me. And not only that, but she just does that all the time. You know, she just, day by day, we're told, she does that. And he would, Joseph, what did he respond to Potiphar's wife when she kept telling him, lie with me, lie with me?
What did he say? One?
He said that Potiphar left everything in his hands except for her.
Yeah.
Right.
He says, there's no one in the household that is greater than myself as far as my master is concerned. I hold the highest position other than my master. And he
says, the only thing that really my master has withheld from me is you. So, what was Joseph's attitude toward Potiphar's wife's advances to him concerning sexual things?
Can't do this and sin against God.
Yeah, isn't that fascinating? And isn't that wonderful? That should be what we do in the time of temptation. You know, when Satan comes and tempts us one way or another, whatever is our weak link, so to speak, that should be our answer to Satan. How can I do this and sin against my God? And if we'll do that right off the bat, it seems to me like we'll be pretty successful in our battle with Satan. Joel?
Same thing that David said in Psalm 51, against thee and thee alone have I sinned. Tom likes to quote Charles Spurgeon. He said, when I thought God to be a tyrant, I viewed sin as a trifle. When I learned that he was a kind and good God, I beat my chest to think that I had never sinned against him.
Yeah, excellent quote.
Excellent quote. Excellent quote. Charles Haddon Spurgeon, old-time preacher in England. Very, very poetic language that he used in his sermons. Okay, so she continued to just try to get Joel to lie with her. Seems to me like that should point us to 1 Peter chapter 5 and verse 8. Everybody, you know what that verse says. You don't really need to look it up. You might not remember it just off the top of your head, but I know good and well that you're very well familiar with it. Be sober, be vigilant, for your adversary, the devil, walketh about like a roaring lion, seeking whom he may devour. That has got to be our way that we walk each day, aware of the fact that we have to deal with Satan every single day and every moment of the day. We can't let our guard down. And so here is Joseph recognizing that to commit adultery with his master's wife is not just a sin against his master, but against God. Okay. So the thing about it is, she just keeps on continuing to tempt Joseph every day, and he refused to be with her. And that's one of the reasons why we have to be so careful in regard to what we do, what we look at on television, what we listen to. As far as music, I stopped at a red light, and the car beside me had the window down, and the words of the so-called music that came out of that car was just absolutely horrendous. And I couldn't help but think that I wonder what that's doing to this person as far as their moral compass is concerned, listening to that kind of music. Potiphar's wife just kept on using forceful tactics, telling him, lie with me, lie with me, lie with me. And finally we read that Joseph goes into the house, and it says there that the men were not in the house. Okay? On the other hand, it says that when she caught a hold of Joseph's robe, what did he do? Yeah, okay, he ran. And not only did he run, what did he leave behind? Yeah, his garment. Okay, he just got out. You know, 2 Timothy 2:22, flee youthful lust. Well, that's exactly what Joseph did, literally speaking. Because she was just getting more and more. Now, not just saying, lie with me, she was getting really forward to the point that she was grabbing a hold of his tunic. Okay? And that's the way that Satan works. He might start out a little bit slow with you, but he's just going to pile more and more and more and more stuff on you, trying to get you to break. And if we allow him to do that without going to God in prayer and getting God's help, that's exactly what he'll do. He'll break us. We might not want to think about that, but that's a definite possibility. Okay, so Joseph runs. And what does Potiphar's wife do? What did Potiphar's wife do? Joseph has run. Get out of there, Danielle. Oh, okay. More specifically, what did she say? And to whom did she say?
And I think that this is an important thing for us to notice, is to whom Potiphar's wife said what she said. Danielle?
She called all the men of the household and told them, look what this Hebrew person did.
Yeah, now, have you ever paid attention to the fact that we've already been told that the men of the household was not in the house, and Joseph went in to do his work? And Potiphar's wife, whom we do not ever find out the name, but Potiphar's wife, grabs a hold of him.
He runs out, leaving his cloak behind. And now she tells all the men of the household. What men of the household? And it's right there in the verse. I'm sorry? Her men. Thank you. Excellent. Her men. In other words, Potiphar's got his men that serve him, and his wife has got her men. Potiphar's men weren't in the household, but his wife's men were. And so she hunts them up real quick and says, as Danielle mentioned, she says, that Hebrew dude that my husband brought in there is making fun of us. And so when Potiphar comes home, she tells him. What was Potiphar's reaction? I'm sorry? Yeah. Her burned with anger. He wasn't just angry, he burned with anger, depending on your translation. Now, I got to be honest with you, that kind of, Joseph is held in such high esteem with his master Potiphar. And there's no indication in the record here that Potiphar asked Joseph to get his side of the story. He just did and accepted what his wife said. Danielle?
But it's interesting that his anger was.
Murder was kindled, or however your translation puts it, but it never says with Joseph.
Yeah. Obviously, at least some of it was reserved for Joseph, because what did Potiphar do? Put him in prison. He had him put in prison. And in prison, we read that phrase that we need to be watching for, which is what? The Lord was with him, or the Lord was with Joseph. And it says that the Lord extended kindness to Joseph, and he put him in the prison where the king's prisoners were. Do you see the importance of that? What's the importance of that? That he's put in a prison where the king's, not just the old common prison, but the prison where people who have displeased the king is put. What's the importance of that, Anise?
Well, I can think that God is working behind the scenes here.
He probably put it in Potiphar's mind to put him in the prison with the king's prisoners.
Might be that. It could be that he held Joseph in such high esteem that he would put him in a prison that maybe it wasn't as unsanitary or whatever, but there's a more important reason why we see him put into the king's prison. Gene?
Well, he's gonna have to be in contact with the chief butler and the baker, which are from the king, and so people come in contact.
Absolutely. With the providence of God at work, Joseph is put into the prison where he comes into contact with the king's butler and baker, and they're going to play a very important role not long from now in regard to Joseph being released from prison, and we'll start looking at that pretty soon. Okay? So the story of Joseph ends up here in chapter 39 with that phrase again.
That phrase again, the Lord was with him. And whatever Joseph did, the Lord made to prosper. Tom?
And just the moderate punishment of Joseph for that. You would think it would be a far more severe punishment for this crime that he was accused of, and we know he didn't do it, but wouldn't death be the punishment for this?
Don't know. It doesn't seem to have been the punishment for the butler and the baker until the king released both of them, and we're getting way ahead there, but they were both released, and the only one that died was the baker. Cindy?
I was thinking that Potiphar that he really didn't believe that Joseph did that. That's why he put him in the king's prison.
That's a strong possibility.
Because, he knows.
Or at least he had a question in his mind.
Right.
Now, unfortunately, his wife had some physical proof, and that was Joseph's garment. And she played that card, didn't she? She held the card up, the garment up, and she said, "See, this Hebrew that you brought in here made sport with me, wanted me to lie with him, and I refused." I mean, once again, we're talking about these lies and deception. Cindy?
I'm thinking she may not have, but she may have done this before. It's a possibility.
Yes, you're entirely right. This might not have been outside her character. question about Tom.
This was Egypt. This was Egypt. So you got to think about different cultures here. A different culture than back over in the land of Canaan, and different culture than what was over there. In Egypt, women may have been held in a higher regard than it was over in the land of Canaan. They may have had
That wouldn't take much.
a lot more authority when it comes to the legal system than back in Canaan.
And it seems to me like that perhaps Potiphar's first thought is, I have taken this young man almost like my own son, and I have given him all these wonderful responsibilities and put him into a position of great esteem.
Great esteem and that sort of thing. And this is the way he pays me back? I don't know exactly what all the scenarios were, but we do know, remembering that blue arrow that I had going across the very first slide, God is busy working out his eternal plan for man's salvation. And all of this, using man's free will, still, keep that in mind, but using man's free will just goes to show you how incredible our God is, that he can get what he wants done with people who have the right and the power to say no, don't want to do that. But he gets it done anyhow without messing with man's free will. Tremendous God that we're here to worship. Thank you all very much.